Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to grecochess, a YouTube channel of chess. In the previous video, we showed a game that was crucial for my advancing to the second round of the annual chess.com tournament. This, I submitted it to a contest because in addition to the chess competition, there's a competition for the best blogs, videos, and so on, and so I submitted it as my entry to the video contest. And now we return to the previous cycle. We had completed playing against Arthur from Wales, the bot, and before we go to the next bot, once again, the puzzle rush. How many puzzles can we get correct before we have 3 of them wrong? This is not only fun, but it's very instructional and educational, because many times you may have in front of you when you play the game of chess a position that looks like a puzzle. And if you're not familiar, you may miss a chance to suddenly win the game, or you may give your opponent a chance to win themselves. Training these puzzles is very important, of course, so long as you know the limitation. The main limitation of the puzzle is that when you see a position in a puzzle, you know there is an answer. But in a real game, there may or may not be an answer. In a puzzle, if there is a risky move that, if correct, would become brilliant, a sacrifice, usually it's correct. In real games, most times it's not. But if you know the limitations of the puzzles and the distinction between puzzle positions and real positions, they are extremely helpful. We're going through them again, and I would like to invite you, when a puzzle appears, to please pause your videos and try to find the solution yourselves. And in the comments, you may want to write what are your impressions, how many were you able to do by yourselves, did you try on your own to go through the puzzle rush? A great experience. What do you think about them? And as usual, we expect the first few puzzles to be extremely easy, meaning mate in 1 or 2 moves, but as we go ahead, especially after the 20 puzzles, they become tougher and tougher. But let's start once again, and let me first share my screen with you. And here we are. Puzzles, puzzle rush, survival. Survival means that we can take all the time we need. We're not under any time limitations, and this is going to help me explain to you my thought process. And hopefully we can all learn from that. And let's hit the play button to start. Why doesn't it want to start? And finally it started. It gave me a headache. And this, I think most of you can see what it is. If you cannot see what it is, please pause your video and try to find it, because it's the simplest one can ever think about. Mate in 1 move. Rook goes to d1 mate. Second one. This is, once again, pause your video, try to think, but this is also mate in 1, but not so easy as before. You have to see that if the knight goes to f7, the king is constrained, and it's more than mate, as it's called. Next one here. And black is to play, and let me a little bit move my picture so you can see that it is black to move here. But what can black do? Clearly, black is a queen down, and what black needs to do is take the queen. But now what else can black do? White has 2 pawns, black has 1, but black is more advanced. So push the pawn. Passed pawns need to be pushed. The next one. Once again, try to find it. And once again, it's an easy one. Mate in 1. queen supported by the rook, and the king has nowhere to go. This is a nice collaboration of rook and king. Mated. Now this is mated not man in four moves, but in reality it's in one. The other three just postpone the inevitable. Let's see here what's happening. Here it is a collaboration of rook and knight. Here, a battery, queen and bishop. Here, queen loves to collaborate with the knights. Mate in one. And here, let's see what's happening. Another collaboration, queen and bishop, mate in one. Let's see here. Here, the power of the pin. Assuming I get it right, I think knight will go to f3 check, king can only go to h1, and then rook goes to c1. Perhaps knight can block by going to f1 and mate. Let's see if this is the answer or if there is a faster mate that I missed. Nope. Correct. Now, the keys of death, queen and bishop. The queen will go next to the king. Nobody's threatening the queen. The bishop is supporting the queen. And mate. Let's see here what's happening. The king, the white king, is very lonely on g1. If rook goes to g8, that is my first thought, and with a check. What is the answer? King can go to f2 or knight to g2. King can escape from f2. Anything better than that? If queen checks from g5, again I can go here. Oh, I should have seen it before. It's not so different from the previous ones. Queen goes to h2, supported by the rook, and king has nowhere to go because the rook covers f1. Take a little break now. Finish the first 12. Let's see what's happening here. Here, the white king is too isolated. If checked, has only g2 square and h2 free. So, but how can be checked? Here, queen goes to a1. Far away from the king, but good enough for the check. Let's take the rook, and let's go to g1, and it's mate. Look at it. Next one. Do we have a mate or not? It doesn't look as if we have a mate, but we have what is called a skewer. Rook goes to c1, king is e1, and rook is on h1 on the same line. So we'll win the rook. But how is the material going? Because if white has an extra queen, what good is it to win the rook? It will still be behind. But no, two rooks every side, one knight, one bishop, and let's see the pawns. White has one extra pawn, but it's much less advantage than the rook we're going to win. And let's see if this is the answer. Check, and we win the rook. Oh, and now we have to be careful because the white rook is checking us. How can we get out of that? The king has three squares to go. F2, F7, E7, D7 is any better than the others. D7 clearly means that we are going to lose a bishop. Nope, we don't want to lose a bishop. So it is between E7 and F7. E7 means that bishop goes to D6 check, and then we lose a bishop. Collaborate rook and bishop. So the only square we can go safely, I think, is F7. Let's try it. Yes. Easy to find the stew, relatively easy. Not so easy to find later which of the three squares to send a king. And we had to go by elimination. Now here, back rank. In two moves, in fact in three moves. First, queen goes to f7 check. King h8. Queen to f8 check. Sacrifice, rook takes it, but then a rook from f1 will mate. Got it right. The next one. A similar story, but now it's black that do the same things to the white. Queen goes to f2 check, queen to f1 check, and rook takes rook mate. Let's see here what's happening. If only the knight was on g4, would have mate in 1. Queen goes to h2, but if knight goes to g4, what can white do? They definitely don't want the queen to go to h2, but the pawn on g3 will be blocked by the knight. Not like here. What the other piece can cover h2? I cannot see any other one. So knight goes to g4. Ah, yes, okay, they'll postpone by one move. Queen goes to h2 check, and then to f2 mate. Let's see here. This is like the No, it's not so. This is a bishop, not a rook. If that was a rook, it would be checkmate in 1. Fortunately, I got it on time. I almost got confused. Here, if only the rook and the king were not together, but they'll not be together once the knight lands on e7 checks, king goes to h8, and queen to f8 mate. Great. Here. Here we have another little stew. Please notice that rook and queen on this, the white rook and queen on the same diagonal. If only we could place a bishop on the diagonal. And yes, we can. It's light colored, and we have a light. These two are on light colored squares, and we have a bishop on light color. This one here on c8. If we send to b7, look what's happening. First of all, it's protected by the rook on b8, so queen cannot just take it. Then white will lose the queen. If queen goes anywhere, we win the rook, and not just in exchange, win the entire rook because the queen cannot go anywhere to protect the rook. And that should be the answer. Let's see. But now we have to be careful because there is a battery. Bishop c3. Look at that. And queen on e5 collaborate, and the queen is ready, if we're not careful, to go to g7 checkmate. It's wonderful the rook, but not so wonderful if you get mated. So we need to stop the mate. How? Of course, if queen goes to f6 or g5, we stop the mate, but then we lose a queen. Any better way? The only better way I can see, because I don't see how else to control the g7 square, is if pawn goes to f6. Yes, queen will take the pawn here, check, but they already lost the rook. I cannot see anything better than that. Yes, we got it. Here what's happening? Here, the two rooks on the edges of the board. We already have one rook on the second rank, king on the first rank, so all we need to do, if we bring the rook to the first rank, I think white can do nothing, it's mate. Let's see if this is the answer. Yes. Finish 20 puzzle, let's see what will come now. Another tricky one. How many ways does white have to deliver checks? Queen could go to d7, to d8, to g6, and that's it. But the d7, d8 means that we lose a queen. But g6, let's give a look. It's mate. Where can the king go? To like to we cannot take the queen, the f7 square. Nobody can go to block it. The king would like to go to d7, but there the rook on d1 attacks the king. So queen to g6. Got it. Let's see what's happening here. The only check I see if the rook goes, there are two checks. If rook goes to f1, we exchange rooks. Or if queen goes to g3, we lose a queen. Can we attack anything? The white rook on e6 is unprotected. Anyway, we have a double attack. If we exchange rooks, we have king f1 and rook on e6. And the only two squares that cover both of them. Oh no, there is more than two. Two are on the same diagonal, meaning c4 and h3, and the queen can go in neither of them. But also queen can check from f7. Look at it. After we exchange rooks, queen checks from e7, and no matter what, how black replies, we win the rook on e6. We got it. Let's see now, finish 22 puzzles. Here, there is only one way c4 check. If rook goes to h8, then king goes to g6. And the question is, and then what? Queen, you have to look if there is possibility for double attack, especially look, the white rook, excuse me, I'm sorry, the black rook on d5 is undefended. So if queen could check the king and also threaten the rook, we win the rook. Look at it. Rook goes to h8 check, king goes to g6, nowhere else. And if queen checks, no, queen cannot go to g8, it's not a check. If queen goes to e8, there's no rook. Let's think again. I got confused. If only queen, rook to h8 check, king to g6, queen to e8 check. Where can the king go? f7, f6, f5, g5. I don't see anything. And white cannot just procrastinate and, for example, threaten the rook by sending the queen to a8 or b7 because the queen on h5 will start checking and black will escape. Rook goes to h8, check, king to g6, and then what? Let's think. Use this little gray cells, as Hercule Poirot, Agatha Christie's detective would say. So let's think once again. Rook goes to h8, check, king to g6. Then queen can check, but there's only one safe square to check, e8. If king goes to f5, queen checks from f7, we win the rook. If king goes to g5, queen can go to e7, check. King has to stay near the queen. And no matter where it goes, queen can check and win the rook. Where else did the king go? If it goes to f6, queen from e8, king go to f8 check. But I can't see anything, any other first move other than rook going to h8 for a check. Okay. Now the only check I see, of course, rook can take on h6, but this is a useless check. The only useful check, and see there are also a few other checks from the queen from d6, but when you win, nothing. The only useful check I see is for the queen to go to e8 check. I don't see any other second move for white. And now here, if queen goes to e7, check, king has to stay near the queen. Otherwise, we have a steward, diagonal steward, and white wins the queen. And whether it goes to h5 or g4, queen can win the rook. Let's see if this is the case. Oh, they didn't even ask you to think even further. We got it right. Here, let's see what's happening. White has two queens versus one queen for black, but it's black's turn to play. Can black checkmate? If queen goes to g5 check, king can go to one of these two squares. Queen goes to g2 check. Of course, king goes to e1, it's mate. If king goes... No, there's another square where king go. King goes here check, king goes to f1. Queen goes to g2 check, king goes to e2, and queen goes to e2 mate. King went to f2, not the way we thought, but if queen checks from g2, okay, not mate, but even in e3, I think queen to it would be mate. To finish 24 puzzles, all of them flawless. You see all the 24, two lines of 12. And let's go to the third line. Let's see the material. Black is ahead by two pieces, so white can win the queen. Then the knight will take the rook. And, and queen cannot take the rook. So I think first queen needs to take the rook. Check. And no matter what black does, whether they place a queen anywhere, c8, d8, e8, or king goes to h7, we get the queen. I think this is the best way to win as much material as possible. So we got a queen and a rook, and we lost a rook. So we got an extra queen. And a queen has to face, and we have the pawn on b6. The queen has to face knight and bishop, but especially the help of this pawn. Without this pawn, still technically white is winning, but white has to be very, very careful to convert. But now I think things are going to be much easier. Let's see if this is the answer. Yes. Is this a Greek gift? Let's give a look. It looks like bishop goes to h7 check. He takes it. Knight goes to g5 check. Queen cannot take it because of the bishop on d2. Otherwise, uh, black will lose the queen for two pieces. And then if the king goes to g8, queen goes to h5. Queen goes to g6. We have to be careful. I think queen goes to g4. And then we have discovered check winning the king. Let's see if this is the answer. Oh, black doesn't want to get mated, so they'll sacrifice their queen for two pieces and got it right. Next one. This is a nice collaboration of queen and knight. This happens when you leave your diagonal open from h5 to e8, and this happened because we pushed the pawn to f6. Black should not have done it, and now they are going to pay for their mistake. Three moves checkmate. Let's see here. This looks like a back rank, but it's black in a case to convert. I don't think they'll mate. Queen goes to f2 check, king goes to h1. Queen wins a rook, another rook takes a queen, a knight to f2 check, and they'll win the queen. And we won an exchange. Both queens go off the board, but black wins a rook and a pawn and loses the knight. So, starting position, do they start with equal material? If anything, black is a pawn ahead. Now let's see if this is the answer. Check. Take the rook. Check from f2 and win the queen. Got it. Let's see here what is happening. Ooh, black is checking, so we have to answer the check before anything else. But fortunately, it's easy to answer the check. Black should not have delivered such a check because now A queen will take the rook and nobody threatens the queen. I think it's mate. Yes. Here, black king exposed. The pawn should not have moved to g6 because by moving to g6 gave the square h6 for a queen and quite a strong attack. I think what's happened here, there's no mate, but if rook takes on g6, check, pawn takes, rook takes the another pawn. Now, queen has to take, and a queen takes, and the pawn cannot take back because of the pin. So we got queen and two pieces, excuse me, queen and two pawns for two rooks. That by itself does not exactly win the game because we got 11 points for the price of 10. Yes, it's nice to have this advantage, but not that crucial. But the black king is so exposed that it's much more than the material. Let's see if this is the answer. Yes. Let's see here what's happening. Let's see with what material do we start. Queen every side, 1 versus 2 rooks for white, 1 versus 3 light pieces for no. Queens, every side has one queen. Rooks, black has two rooks, white has one. Light pieces, meaning bishop and knights, white has two of them and black has three. So black is doing much better. The only nice thing for white is the pawn on h7 ready to promote. But it must stay as a queen because we cannot say, okay, it goes here. Bishop takes and the knight wins the bishop. Yes, nice that we got the bishop, but to still behind the material. But what else can we do? Could only find a way to eliminate the bishop, it would be wonderful. But can we see if we can make any other way? Because white has two double checks. See, the white knight is covering. So if the white knight disappears, there is a check. And if it goes to either e5 or h8 is a double check. If it goes to h8, the problem is it's blocking the pawn on h7. If it goes to e5, nice thing is that queen can go to f7 then, and with a check. And it should be made. We don't even need to promote the pawn. Let's see if this is the case. Knight goes to e5, check, double check. So king has to go somewhere. There are not too many somewhere he can go. He can go two. If it goes to f8, queen goes to f7 mate. If it goes to e, it can only go, can it go to g7? Yes. Then queen goes to f7, king to h6. And then when, if it goes, okay, let's see. Knight goes here. If king goes to e7, queen to f7 check, king goes to d6, and queen to d7 mate. And I don't think the king, if it goes to g7, knight goes here, king goes to g7. Then the pawn promotes, and the bishop cannot catch it. So I think the answer is knight to e7. Although there are many possibilities after that, I think every one of them leads to a win for white. Here we go, check, and now take the bishop. Good. Let's continue. Here it looks one of the easy first ones. Mate in one move because of the knight on g5, ready to protect the queen on f7, and then king has nowhere to go. Look at it. Because the rook is on d8, so the king cannot escape. Good. Good 32. Our record is 50, as I have mentioned. We did it a few puzzles ago. Let's see if we can pass it. Not so easy because the puzzles will start becoming tougher and tougher. But this seems not to be so hard if you know the trick. Queen goes to f2 check. Rook must take back because if king goes to h1, queen takes on f1 mate. And when rook takes, allow the rook goes here to c1, and whether the queen or the rook interfere, eventually the rook has to go to f1, and then the two rooks we made. Yes, we got it. Let's see what's happening here. Why to play? The black king is not in a nice position near the edge of the board. But can we finish it off? What would happen? What would happen if I rook? Because if we're not careful, the king can easily escape from the edges. If the rook goes to g2 check, what can black king do? It can go to any of. If it goes to a1, rook goes to c1 mate. If it goes to a3, rook goes to a4 mate. If it goes to b1, materially look at that. Both sides have two rooks, white has three pawns, black has four. So if we cannot meet now, black with the extra pawn will get at least a draw. So if rook goes here and the king goes to b1, the only square that is not immediate mate, the white rook can go, for example, to uh, f4 and then go to f1, and black cannot stop it. Worse for them, there is a pawn on c7, otherwise a rook could go to c8 and then block the check. But now I don't think this can happen. Let's see, rook to g2 check. Rook goes here, rook to f1, and we finally mate. Here, I don't think there's a mate. There are too many pieces, and the white king is not so exposed. Yes, he has not castled yet, but here, since there's no mate, one needs to think any piece that is loose. And if you see in the white position, none of their pieces is exactly loose now. But you have two queens staring at each other. What is going to happen if we exchange queens? Take the queen, and white takes back. Queen for a queen until now we're even. But then look at the knight on h3. It is loose, and we have a bishop on c8 that's going to win the knight. We win a piece. How do we start? Both sides have one queen. Both sides have two rooks. Both sides have both bishops and knights. And both sides have 8 pawns. So until now, both sides have their entire army ready. But after we exchange the queens, we win the knight. It's not easy to see this inside your mind unless... Oh, we didn't finish yet. The bishop took a knight with a check. So a pawn has to take back the bishop. Nothing else. That is obvious. Not easy to see these things very fast, but that's why one needs experience little by little to be able to see these things. But how far can we see? I cannot yet see the answer to this puzzle, but is there an answer? If that was a bishop, then a knight could go here and have multiple threats. But since it is a queen, if a knight goes here, look at it. It's not going to work because the knight takes here, a queen takes a queen, and the knight takes a queen. So that should not be the answer. Anything better than that. If the king goes to g7 to attack the rook on f6, the rook has quite a lot of squares to go, including winning a pawn on d6. Plus, of course, returning back. But anything else? Knight takes knight. Queen takes knight. Knight takes queen checks from here. I don't see this thing working. So this is the first one that I cannot easily see the answer. If queen takes knight, And queen takes back. Yes, it's true that a knight here takes the pawn and attacks queen and rook, but once queen disappears, we win the rook, and so what? We got a knight, a rook, but we lost, and the pawn and lost a queen, so that should not be the answer. Another interesting possibility is if the knight takes a pawn and knight takes a knight, then a queen can go to e5 and attacks both rooks. Unfortunately, one of the rooks is protected by a king. So if the other rook that's not protected moves anywhere safe, we don't win material. If only queen to e5 was a check, perhaps, but we don't. That's not the case. But we win the knight. Yes, so we'll have an extra pawn. But this is the answer. Knight takes pawn, knight takes knight, queen goes here, rook moves, and we win the knight. I can't see anything better than that. Anything better than that. We win a pawn, but then the rook can take a pawn on d6. What is the material to begin with? Both sides have a queen. Both sides have two rooks, one knight, one bishop, and pawn 6 versus 6. Material is the same. Can't see anything better. Let's take the pawn and see what happens if it's correct. No, it's wrong. There was a better answer that unfortunately we missed. Here, we'll see later in the end. Out of the first 36, we did 35. How many more can we do? Because usually once you miss the first one, the other ones, the other misses come very near. If the rook goes on h5 check, it's not check, we threaten a mate on h1. How can white avoid it? I don't see any way. They might check with the rook, but this only postpones it by one move. I think rook goes to h5 and threatens mate on h1. Yes, that's it. We lost one, but we have 36 correct. How many more can we do? Here, the white king on g5 is not very well protected, but what dangers are there? A safe way to check is if pawn goes to h6. But where can the white king go? If it goes along the h file, then queen takes on h2. If it goes here, queen can go to e8. And this should be made. Not exactly. The queen would go to f7 for black. But then a rook would get the queen. Yes. What's happening here? Let's give a look. Queen goes straight to check. We want at least a pawn. And the king has to go back to g6. And now we have to be very careful for the coup de grace is the French expression, meaning for the final blow. If the rook goes to f6 check, I think it is made. Good, we got it. Let's see the next one here, what's happening. Oh, that one needs to know the patterns. It's not easy to find over the board if you've never seen anything similar before. Here, that's why I'm asking the viewers, please pause the video, try to find yourself. You don't know the pattern, spend some time, and even if eventually you'll see the rest of the video, this at least will make you remember it later when it's a real game. Queen takes knight on g6. And do we start with the same material? If anything, white has the next exchange. So black cannot afford to lose a knight. They must take it back. And then a rook on h8 is mate. Oh, black saw it and decided I'd rather be down a rook. It's not even like that. No, I'm sorry. I did the wrong math in calculating pieces. So black was ahead in material by a piece. So now, yes, we won the knight. It's wonderful. No, nothing bad about it. But now the material is even. So this cannot be the answer. And if we don't save our rook, we might even lose our rook on g6. Well, at least it's not bad that from being a piece down, we're now even, but that cannot be the answer. What chances do we have here? And of course, yes, there was the, as I say, the something that was not said. And if black had taken the rook with the pawn, then it was checkmate. But now it's not. Now we have to fight with equal material. But what follow-up do we have? If bishop goes to b4 check, king has only. If they put the rook, we win the exchange with the check, and then we save our rook. If king goes to e8, our rook goes to g8, then we win at least a rook. Now our rook goes to g8, and we win at least the a8 rook. Yes. We got it, although my initial calculation was wrong, unfortunately. Meaning I had not counted correctly the material of black, and I thought we were up an exchange. In reality, we were down by a piece. Let's see here what's happening. Two knights protect each other. We have the same material. So if the rook on a7 takes the knight on c7, then rook takes back and queen wins the knight. So we got two knights for one rook, which is good. Well, of course, black can take the pawn on c4. Anything else we can do? Let's assume that. Let's start again. Rook takes knight. Knight takes rook. And then our rook can go here and threaten the white queen. And the white queen can go where? Not too many squares with all these pawns we have here. It can take the pawn on c4. So we can win two knights and a pawn for the price of a rook. And after that, also a bishop can win the rook on a1. I'm not sure if this is a correct move. There are too many nice combinations. But I think the first move is rook takes on c7. Nope, it's not. Second mistake. We have 38 correct and two mistakes. Let's see how many can we do before the third and final mistake. If queen takes on h7, king can only go to g4. Queen goes to h3, check. King goes to f4, and then queen goes to f3 mate. Is this the answer? Yes. Mate with epaulets, as it's called. 39 correct. Let's see how many more can we do. Yes, the white king is not that safe, but the rook on e2 gives enough protection for now. The rook on e2 is unprotected. Only white piece is not protected. So if the queen goes to f1 or f3, what is the follow-up? The queen goes to f1, no matter what the rook does, or the rook on e2, rook goes to e1. But are there many things to do? Queen goes to f1, and what if this rook goes here? Rook goes here. I can't see anything else better than queen going to f1. Then rook goes to d1. Let's see if this is the answer. Yes, at least we got the first part correct. Now, but we still need to solve the entire problem. If the rook goes to d1, we threaten mate on g1 and h1. I don't think there are too much things that white can do. Rook goes to d1. And now to win the bishop, we attack it twice, the queen and the rook, and defend only once the rook. Material is the same. One queen, two rooks, one light piece, and 5 pawns. I think queen takes here. Queen takes the rook, and we still can finish. Good. We got 40 correct and 2 wrong. Let's see how many correct can we do. The only check I see is if queen goes to e3. This is a check. How can black reply? Or if rook goes here, thanks to a knight, we win the rook. What else can white do? Where can the king go? Nowhere else. Yes, it seems its own piece are blocking the way. So white has only one reply, rook goes here. But we're starting one piece down. Look, we have queen, rook, and knight. White has queen, rook, knight, and bishop. Plus another 2 pawns. So rook goes here. We win the rook with a queen, check. And that should be mate. Good. We got 41. Let's see. We're near 50, but we already have 2 of them wrong. We cannot afford any one wrong. One more wrong, and it's over. Here, what's happening? Material-wise, queen, knight, and bishop both sides. White has 4 pawns, black has 4, but black has a pawn on c2 ready to promote. And we only have the knight to stop it, and if we do so, we lose a knight. But we have the pawns a5, b4 connected past pawns. If we exchange queens and keep a knight on e2 and start pushing to a6, can black stop a pawn? They can win a knight good if they push the pawn and we take it and they take a knight. But then upon a7 and 8, how can black stop? 1, 1, 2. They could win this pawn, but not the a6. I think that should be the answer. What's the pawn to a6? They can win a knight. First of all, what we should not do under any circumstance is take the knight, because then they promote the check. Should we go to a7 or should a knight go to c1? What is the advantage going to C1? I don't see any advantage the knight going to C1. A pawn goes to E7. I can't see anything better. Wrong. So we got 41 correct and 3 wrong. Let's see what were the answers. Let's start with this puzzle here. That's, you can see 42.7% of the people that tried it solved it. At least we're in the majority of the 57.3. We tried, and now we can move the screen here. We tried to do it with a knight taking here, but this was not the answer. Let's try once again. Is this the answer? Nope. What else could be the answer be? Let's give a look. Ooh, I think I saw it. Knight goes to B3, and then we win the rook. Oh la la. We didn't think of that because we had a fork. Okay, we missed it. Let's see the next one. Got 41 correct, not bad, but let's see this one. What happened here? We took the knight, and not a good idea. What else could have done? We said, I think what we tried before is this in here. That was wrong. Let's try again. Was it the other knight? Yep. But still, we haven't completely solved it. If we have a discover check, would that be the answer? Yes, that was the answer. Let's see the numbers. We didn't see how many people have solved it. 62.1 pass. Oh, yeah, yeah. So majority passed it, but not me. Let's see the last one now. We started correctly. Yes. This. Let's see the numbers. First of all, the statistics. 43.3% passed it, fewer than half. Because this indicates how easy or how difficult it was. Let's try now. And now what is the next answer? They didn't like a pawn going to A6. No, this was okay. Yes, the problem is if we leave here, the knight will lose it. If the knight goes to C1, is this the answer? Yes. So these are the 3 puzzles got wrong. We got 41 correct. We still were not able to overcome the record that we had with 50 correct. What can we do? That is life. That's how one is learning. I hope you had fun with us. I hope you try to solve them. In the comments, if you want, write what is your experience with the Puzzle Rush. And once again, thanks to all the viewers that we had. Thanks to the subscribers, the likes, the comments. We'll continue with the next spot and let's see which is the next spot online. Now that Arthur is over, play bots. And we're in the advanced bots. And the next one is Jonas from Germany. Yep. So the next bot is going to be another 1700 bots. Jonas from Germany. Let's see what can we do with Jonas. But that's it for now. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks viewers, subscribers, the likes and the comments. This is grecochess. I'm your host, Karilaos Aniziris. And to all of the viewers that we have, goodbye.